Hello, everybody. I am Nu-Trix, the synth guy, and today we're talking about Bolt. It's a software synthesizer from Nektar. Yeah, Nektar. Nektar that is known for making controllers, keyboards, but I didn't know they were making software synthesizers. I'm surprised and happily surprised because it is not your traditional software synthesizer. It is what they call a Harmonics synthesizer. Now, what does an Harmonics synthesizer is, it's the modern twist on additive synthesis, if you want. You have two oscillators, but they're not normal oscillators in the fact that you have control over the harmonics. There's no filter, but in the oscillator, there's harmonics and roll-off, so you can do some type of filtering, and I'll show you how. You have two of them. You can combine them with cross modulation. There's also FM modulation, not between them, but there's a twist. It's actually pretty powerful. It has its own sound. It's modern. It can be cold and I would say phasey electronic sounding, or it can be round and more analogish sounding. But I think that one of the reasons somebody would like to go with the Bolt synthesizer is the modulation capacities and the phasing combination capacity to create these weird evolutive sounds. Come, let's listen to this. You'll see. First thing first, you can actually have a bigger screen. There you go. If you're like me and you need glasses. Bolt is a one-screen synthesizer. Everything's on one screen. You don't have a sequencer. You don't have a step sequencer. You don't have an arpeggiator. But you have really powerful modulation. And you have a bunch of effects. So if you look at the end of the signal, we've got EQ, chorus, delay, and reverb. They're cool. They're nice. We expect to have them. But that's not the part that makes this stand, outside of the normal realm of synthesizer. It's really easy to go around it and to just navigate through it. If you double click on the name of a module, you're basically turning it off or on. So if you don't want to use oscillator 2, click on it. You don't want modulation, click on it. You want LFO, click on it. You only have oscillator 1 now. So now you're kind of having just one oscillator. And it's probably the best way to actually start thinking about how sound design works in this one. Let's go through this together. You'll see. And before we go further, I'm just going to go and take the very simple one, which is a sine wave. So you have the sine wave. First of all, if you look at the screen, you can actually see an oscilloscope. If you click on it, you can see a spectrogram. So you see all the frequencies. Well, it's a sine wave. You only have one. So right away, if you want to look at how sound is created from the oscillator, you go in harmonics here and you turn it on, you'll see the other harmonics opening and appearing. This is like a filter cutoff point because you're opening up the low pass filter. And keep in mind that this is in the oscillator itself. So yes, it's an harmonic, because now what you can do, you can also say, well, I want odd harmonics. So I only have the first, the third, the fifth, and the seventh, and all that stuff. So now you're basically having something that is more like a square wave, basically. Okay? And you have the roll-off. Let's go back to the sawtooth type of sound. If you look at the end, it cuts really rapidly. If you go to the roll-off, you're basically creating a slope that is different or rounder. So a longer slope, let's say we're going to hear it. So you're somewhat doing something that looks like a cutoff point and a slope control, but it's very flexible. And the modulation part of this, which is one of the greatest things of this synthesizer, is that you can actually use, let's say, an LFO here and say, I want to use this. There's many different shapes you can use, but I want to send it to not the pitch. I want to send it to the harmonics of my oscillator 1, or I want to send it to the roll off of my oscillator 1. So now, so very nice. Very, I mean, it's easy to use this. It doesn't mean that it's an low pass filter, but you can kind of use it this way. There's no, in this Logic, there's no resonance, but still you can make it scream, you know? You have the depth here, you get inverse. So if you have two of the same shaped oscillator with the same frequency and harmonics in it, you can inverse one of them, and you can create these cool. I'll turn this thing on. You've got deep. Deep is basically making it sound more like analog. It has this roundness in the sound. So if you want to have more of a shape of a traditional square, sawtooth, or sine wave, you would turn on deep. That's kind of how they explain it. By the way, there's a PDF that comes with the software when you download it, and go through it. It's really interesting to see these little things. Like this thing here, little arrow, if you turn it on, let's go back to not hearing this one. Do you see what it is? It's distortion, it's drive, it's saturation. It goes with the level, but you can saturate the output level if you want, and right away. So pretty cool, pretty cool. And again, this is also part of the destination drive 1, 2, or the two of them to modulate using the LFO. Actually, you've got 3 LFOs. So 3 of them, 4 destination each. Basically, you can assign to anything that is pitch, detune, harmonics, roll off, noise volume, the panning, the sub volume. There's a sub oscillator. Each of them have one. So now I'm still using just one oscillator. Now if you turn on the other one again, we said you can change it. Now I'm actually having 4 oscillators. I'm actually using the 2 sub plus the 2 oscillators. So you have 4. It's just a massive big sound you can have. Now you can also have cross modulation. Now it means that oscillator 2 is cross modulation oscillator 1, and 1 is also modulating the 2. And we got FM. Now, if you go into FM, FM has another oscillator that you don't see here. That is a fixed sine wave that is following oscillator 1. That now is modulating for frequency modulation on oscillator 1. So if you detune oscillator 1, that's where you get that. FME sound to it. Can we assign it to this? Can we assign to more of this FM? No, that's the one I need. I would also want to have this to be controlled. So now, please, guys, add this knob as a control destination for LFO. Modulation, same logic as LFO, but you've got an envelope here, and you can assign to all these destinations. But what's cool also is you can actually use the envelope to affect the LFO frequency, LFO intensity. Yeah, that's the intensity of it. Or you can actually control the speed of it. The last part is the one at the bottom. Polyphony can be monophonic, or in this case, 10-note polyphony. Of course, if you have more polyphony, it's going to take more CPU. One thing that is interesting is you get the voices, doubling the sound. Now I've got 4 voices. It's kind of a unison mode with 4 voices on one key. Let's actually go in and play some of the sounds so you hear what I'm talking about when I say. There's these really cool bass sounds. And I'm going to play this thing. Oh, this one here. I'm using these bass lines, this bass line. Where it becomes interesting is you get these sequence. They're not real sequence, they're basically using the LFOs to create these fake sequences. With this one, you can have these very soft, normal, not what you expect out of a synthesizer often. And then you got these weird, aggressive sounds. And I like hard stuff. I like that. So while playing with it, I basically just took a song that I made for another demo and I just slapped some sound and see how it could support it. And sounds pretty nice. Sounds pretty nice. You have here, you have this one in solo. That's the movement I find interesting with all the it's not filtering because there's no filter in it, but that evolution is really nice. And you got this one here. The bass I just played earlier. You got this one here. This one is kind of a broken sound. It's really nice. I mean, I like that type of sound. So if you combine the three of them, you have this cool kind of intro. Then I had this little fake kick they created. There's also a snare that is part of the sounds you have in there. And you can just really go into like pads. But I like these sounds. It has another texture. It has another attitude than just traditional subtractive synthesizer. Of course, I like and I love analog subtractive, synthesis. It's the quickest, fun way to make sound. But this has another twist to it. Still is very easy to get to use it because, as you saw, sounds and feel like we know how to use it. It's pretty cool. Nektar, doing synthesis. I didn't know. Did you? That's it. Stay safe, make music. See you soon. Cheers.